pre-commission meeting to order at 8 a.m. We'll look at our consent agenda. Are there any concerns about that? Any questions?
Yeah.
You're gonna do yours. The presentation, I think you guys asked me
City manager.
for a presentation of the payment analysis. We thought this would be a good time for you all to have that information, so Chris is gonna go over that with everyone,
Okay.
okay? Yes,
Okay, so we're doing that now.
yes, sir.
I was gonna come back to that. All right.
So back in January, if you recall, you all approved the contract with RMT so that we could do the payment analysis. And as we discussed then, we promised to bring it back to you all in a few months after we started collecting the data. And so you all did it and we had collected. So this is the dashboard here of the software. And as you can see, all of the different colors are our roadways graded. And this has allowed us the opportunity to provide information to residents who call in wanting to know, where their road stood on a paving plan, or while we were paving roads, if they called in and said, hey, you're paving the road next to it, but my road is worse, how come you're not paving it? We have the ability now to pull this up and see exactly what score their roads are. This will also allow us, when we submit for any legislative appropriations, or other grant funding opportunities, we can decide which roads we're going to go, as well as provide the backup documentation that that road needs some information. Prior to this, a lot of it was graded by either a consultant or city staff riding the road and grading it. And as you all know, we discussed before, the first road you ride is in bad shape, but by the time you spend 4.5 hours riding roads, you start doubting yourself, is that first road really as bad as what it is? And so this is really an accurate representation of it. And all of the equipment is on about 20 of our public works vehicles. So every day as they're riding, doing their normal work, it's collecting the data. And then when they get and park their truck in the evening at the public works complex, it downloads and then updates our map. So anytime, a resident, gets with city staff or any of you guys, we can pull it up and see exactly what their road is and export this into our CIP plans for the future. So we just kind of wanted to bring this back and show everybody what it could do and the ability we have now to monitor our roads. And knock on wood, if we ever have another hurricane and the debris trucks roll in, we have a live representation of what our roads are today. And then after the debris trucks leave town, what they are then, so we can present that to FEMA if that time ever comes again.
So red means what?
Red, green is the best, yellow next, orange, and then red is the worst. So that you can see different roads that they score, and then the roads we have been due next week for the paving, we can show what those roads are as well. And then after they're paved, for example, Illinois from 14th to 17th, that was paved not too long ago, and you can see right here how it is now green up to bar, whereas the road next to it is red and in that shade.
What's the criteria that it uses this to determine if
So
it's
it scans, it takes photos of the road, as well as it measures the vibration on each truck. So when we first started this, we had talked about putting it on our garbage trucks. However, further information from the company, they said, hey, like an F-150 or an F-250 is a much better representation because that rides more normal. And so it's all on all of our smaller pickup trucks, and that gives an accurate representation of what the roads are really like.
Now, based on the criteria, red, yellow, green, of course, red being the worst road grade, how bad is the road when it is red? And are all roads graded the same that are red, I guess is the question.
They all are graded. We are still getting it a lot more proficient in the software, so we can change the grading scale to be stricter or more lenient on the roads. So we can adjust that. We can also, once we get like our most updated, bid numbers back, we will be able to input that in for what it would cost to redo a road the way we take it, or normally do it, like the reclaiming and repaving the road. And then we can also put numbers in for asphalt preservation and like crack sealing or any other type of chemical preservation to show what it would save if we did preservation routes in the future to prolong the life of those roads.
Okay.
So you could change the parameters to tell us the worst of the worst.
Yes, ma'am. You could, like, if you got on here and exported a list of all of your roads that show in red, and then you write and say, hey, we probably could change some of these, you could make the red a wider category, so move some of those to the orange, and prolong the time of paving, and you can play with your score there to make it necessary of what you're trying to accomplish.
Got it. And as we move forward with future paving projects, with this information, do the reds now become priority, or, how does, you made a resident a promise that, hey, 2 years ago you were in our paving plan.
So I would say the best plan of action going forward was to keep the roads, even if they're not necessarily red, that we have been promising and telling people that, hey, this is in the paving plan.
Okay.
And then moving forward, it would be, hey, this is where we need to go. And for example, you can pull up some of these roads that might be red, but might be way less traveled, that you could, move in the priority list accordingly to make sure that you're hitting the most traveled roads that are red and orange and yellow, to get where you get.
Got it.
I think this is going to be what.
All right. Any more questions for Mr. Lightfoot?
Where's 8th Street Circle on there? Yeah, it's red as hell in it. Yeah, and the road it comes out onto Carolina. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that road's full of potholes, man.
Yeah, and this section right here.
Yeah.
I know Commissioner Peebles and Commissioner Perno, you both have had numerous residents reach out about that. But that road, the Carolina portion is in the West 10th Street CDBG grant. So it will have new water line and new paving in it. And then, we submitted twice for the East 8th Street Circle Road, and that one hasn't made it, but those plans are done, just when we get going.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Lightfoot. And of course, we have any additional questions that come over the weekend, we'll ask those on Tuesday.
That's awesome.
Take right now.
Got it. All right. Questions regarding the consent agenda?
Just informational, the number 10, we're changing the timeline on number 10. I just,
That was grant funded.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
this is, again, what I think is happening. They've done it to all the cities. The state grant administrators come in and they started matching up grants to the, because you'll have a grant and you'll have an engineering contract and then a construction contract. And they're checking like, hey, your contract expired. So they want all the underlying contracts to match up to the grant agreement. So they can check a little box.
This grant here is for that appropriation for the headworks, the 1.67 million. So of course, we'll extend that out.
Yeah.
And then also we had seen somebody had asked some questions about why we had so many grant extensions last commission meeting, then we have a few more. And all of those grants, the plans have been submitted to the state and the feds, and we are just waiting on their approval. So a lot of just, the red tape for those projects is why these are being extended.
None of these are the engineer or the contractors coming to us saying we need more time. It's the state grant administrator saying these timelines need to match. And so, ideally, our vendors are still sticking to their timelines and getting us the plans within 180 days and all that. It's just they want to check that box so the numbers match or the times match.
And number 11 is the individual that's asked simply for an extension.
This is one that you brought to me.
Yeah.
And after we did some digging, this is one that the commission gave approval for, I think, 2 extensions. This will be the 3rd extension. And I did say this will be her last extension in terms of, she has some undue circumstances, and I surely understand that to get this done.
And the employee benefits plan,
Yes, ma'am.
have those costs gone up?
I have actually our broker on the line. Mr. Owen Wingate is going to explain that to you. Okay? Owen?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Owen Wingate. I'm the old broker for the employee benefit plan. And it's that time of year where we go to market and look at the plans and see what the next year looks like. We were very lucky this year, or not lucky, y'all had good claims experience, which is helpful. And so were able to go to market and look at a few other carriers just to make sure that we were doing the right thing by the city and renewing with Florida Blue. What you have in front of you there is the Florida Blue current plans and the renewal. We ended up getting negotiating a 1.65% rate increase, which is fantastic in the world today. Trend is still 9.5% or 10%. So to be able to get a 1.65% renewal and have no plan changes, we were very excited. But we went a little bit step further. Florida Blue offered us what they call an 11-month premium. So we will get a premium holiday 1 month, and it's going to be in January of this year or next year, 2025. And we will basically not have to pay the medical premium for the month of January, which will save the city roughly $150,000 based on current enrollment. And we also got a $15,000 wellness budget that they gave us so that we can create some wellness incentives for the employees and continue to have good claims experience moving forward.
Awesome. Any
Sounds
additional
good.
questions for Warren?
So, do you have any questions?
So the price has only gone up by 1.65%. Is that what that number at the bottom is, the total monthly premium?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
It's pretty good.
It's spectacular.
And from what I'm seeing, although the price is going up by saving us that 1 month premium, we're still actually paying less this year than we would be, or the upcoming year, and sticking with this plan than we would have paid last plan at a percentage less in 12 months.
That is correct. It's actually, you can see the map there. It's roughly $120,000 less for your next fiscal year.
Nice.
I was excited, to say the least.
We're all excited.
All right, any additional questions? No?
Okay, we're going to leave. Thank you so much.
All right, is it,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
so everyone good with the consent agenda? All right. Moving on to number 13. Miss Amanda.
I can give you a bit of an update of what has happened. If you recall, at the last meeting, the developer asked for a bit more time because they were looking at different options and actually had kind of re-looked at their traffic impact analysis, had some discussions, I think, with the county, and they determined that, yes, they did need to put that right turn lane in. However, if you recall, they had put the seasonal factor in the calculations, but not the school data. And so we had a meeting with them yesterday. The city manager was involved in the meeting, and I think we might have come to a remedy for now. And I have actually put a new recommendation together for both the development order and the preliminary plat. I feel that if I read that recommendation, those recommendations to you, it will make sense to you what is being proposed. Is that okay? And then no, it's not on there yet because it was yesterday afternoon. And so if you are okay with it, then what I'll do is I'll update the report, the car report, and get it to CJ so she can get it out to you. And there's also an exhibit that will go along in the packet. So there will be some changes that I will make to both of those agenda reports. So as far as the development order goes, the recommendation would be that the commission recommend approval of the development order contingent upon the following. Number one, a right eastbound turn lane being installed at the intersection of East 26th Street and County Road 389 Northeast Avenue prior to submittal of the Phase 2 final plat, which would be 62 units. And number two, a new traffic impact analysis being submitted to the city with AM and PM peak hour traffic counts taken during the school semester prior to submittal of the Phase 2 final plat. Again, that would be restricting them to 62. That would be the development order recommendation. And then the preliminary plat recommendation would be recommend approval of the preliminary plat contingent upon the final plat being broken up and brought to the city for approval in 3 phases per Exhibit A. And Exhibit A will go in the packet, and we hand one out to you. There you go. Okay, and you can see that Phase 1 is 62 lots. So basically, they can get the development order contingent upon those things because they are not able to sell or break up the plat until they bring the final plat. They can't sell any of the units or build any of the units. So the preliminary plat can be approved so that they can put the infrastructure in, but the final plat would come back in phases. The first one would be for 62 units. And they wouldn't be able to bring a final plat to you for anything above that if they hadn't done all of those other things, which they will do way before. You know, when school goes back, they will undertake the counts. So those things will be done long before they come back for Phase 1 plat, actually. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And if you're all okay with that, then like I said, what I will do is I will change the car report to include that we had that meeting and that these things are being proposed and the recommendations are contingent upon those things. And I will put the phasing plan in with both the agenda items, the development order and the preliminary plat.
Is everybody good to go with that?
I appreciate the developers working with us.
They're
Thank you
here.
very
They were
much.
very working with us on trying to come up with a solution.
And we'll get a good, it will be really interesting when we get the real picture of what is happening on those roads when schools are in. Because, it may turn out that actually that right turn lane doesn't need to be put in. We may need a signal. So for now, they're saying they'll put the right turn lane in, but when we get that traffic impact analysis back and we review it, we might determine that there are actually some other remedies that are required instead of that when we see the actual numbers on both intersections.
So yeah, and with it slowed down like that, like you said, we can determine if we need a traffic signal or not.
Yeah, and look at both intersections, the one at Minnesota that you're concerned about, as well as this one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for working with us. Looking forward to providing more housing for our incoming residents in Lynn Haven.
I have an opinion on this.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it out.
Thanks, Bernie. You know, we don't want to ever stop private property owners from developing their property. As long as they follow the rules and the regulations that we have, I think they have a right to develop the property. And I don't think we need to stifle the growth of Lynn Haven either. You know, I've heard that a lot lately from citizens. You know, you're letting the city get too big. Well, you know, we provide a beautiful place for people to live. It's safe, and they want to come here. So let's don't stifle our city. And then on the other hand, we as a commission have to be prepared or ready for that growth, and we need to maintain our vigilance on that end, so that that growth can occur.
A few years ago when we had a commission city planning meeting, I think one of the words that Commissioner Perno used, and we've tried to follow that, or phrases anyway, was a quality growth. That we, you know, want to have quality growth and not just, you know, bursting at the seams, but also, as you mentioned, not slowing people down. But so I think that's why we do take time to look more at the development orders, especially those that add to the growth of the city, so that we can have quality growth, because we're limited. You know, we're limited in the amount of land that we have. So we're, I think Panama City is probably 3 times as large as we are as far as land capacity. So so there are some other things that we have to look at in the future, like annexation and
It's like a
such.
balancing.
Yeah, so we can, you know, continue to grow. But I do agree, and that's why we're going to look back at the ULDC, of course, with comprehensive plan. I'm going to get that workshop rescheduled so that we can update what growth looks like for Lynn Haven for the next 5-10 years or so, and you know, look at what that trajectory looks like. That's some of the things we're working with now, is what the prior commissions envisioned for the growth of Lynn Haven, and probably didn't think it would be what it is now. That we would be the #1 city for growth in Bay County. So
That's a good one, Perno. Quality growth.
I don't know where it came from.
I give you a
I
point
must
for
have
that
ate my
one.
Wheaties that morning.
yeah,
Within a strategic.
It just
plan.
popped out. you
Yeah.
know.
yeah. So we've latched on to that and sort of follow that. Discussion and possible approval for the mid-year budget adjustment. Director of Finance.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is just one small adjustment to Amanda's planning budget. We discovered this through my review since I've been back. This will help her in her engineering development review category, which you've just discussed with her. We've added $10,000. Questions? Thank you.
All right, and development order for the pickleball center country club. Your dues are going up for that.
$25 a month.
Whole new set.
Now, wait a minute. I never
Whole new
agreed
set
to
of
that.
dudes.
If you want to use it.
Too oldie.
Any questions for?
They're not going parallel to the road. They're going straight out.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that map, and I'm like,
I thought they would do like 2 and 2. I guess they're doing.
and they're not striping for tennis courts at all. It's just pickleball.
Just pickleball.
All right. Any questions on that development order?
Looks like the planning commission voted 6-0.
Yeah, I'm sure. Got a couple of country club guys on there. So
Well, I
Now,
do
wait a
know that,
I'm just saying.
I will say this, probably one of the #1 things that people randomly talk to me about if they find out I'm a commissioner is pickleball courts. How can
Yeah,
we get more pickleball courts? So,
Yeah,
Join the country club.
Yes, exactly right.
but with this, the people that live in the country club can use those and now open up.
you know, last meeting I talked about the people that are presently playing pickleball.
yeah.
Now they want that other court, those other courts striped if we could do it. They're videotaping the usage on that basketball court. We'll send you video if we're not playing basketball out there. Like, okay, well,
Ask them, tell them if they want to pay for it, then
It's
They,
exactly right.
they might,
Yeah.
who knows? We still gotta build the ones over at,
Bel Air.
Bel Air, and that'll help with those folks, because they're already planning on playing the two
Yes,
places.
that is correct.
They're
And
just worried about parking over there.
Pickleball courts run about $450,000. And, that was something we were able to put into our plan when we were rebuilding the gym, but right now to put $450,000.
Is there any way they can get evening time inside?
We
Talk
have
Justin.
basketball, volleyball.
Yeah.
Volleyball.
That's the great thing about adding other programs. One thing we promised the residents that we would add additional programs, other things for adults and youth to do, and we've done that. And so we try to give everybody a piece of the action and a piece of the time.
And we're running a pickleball league right now.
Yes, he's running the
Oh,
pickleball.
I saw that, yeah. I saw that, yeah.
You have to spread the love.
Right, pickleball league might put you over the top. Might get some more.
I saw them
Indoors.
pickleball
They're
on the
not getting
tennis
the love
courts at
indoors, they're only
Cambridge.
getting it in the morning, all at work.
They were using the tennis court.
oh yeah, I noticed that too.
You did.
It's right across the street from my parents' house.
All right, and then discussion on the chapter 10 articles 3 and 4, going back to our code of ordinances. This is back to the animal chapter.
I know Ty had, we drafted a big revision
We
that
did.
Ty spearheaded. I don't know if that ever got.
Well, that Amy was actually working on it. I
Yeah.
think commission was going to give us some direction on the last part of it.
Because I don't think that ever came back and got
No,
voted on
it
yet.
has
But
not.
that's well underway.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
mayor kind of give us direction on.
Mr. Harris?
And really, with
When you run
regard to
over
3 and 4, I've only
yes.
seen two changes that I think are necessary. The first being under cruelty to animals, where on number 3, abandon any animal, I'd like to make a change to that to include dropping off at the shelter. One of the things we've started noticing is people will leave a kennel with an animal. It could be a Saturday afternoon and they just drop it off, or set an animal inside of our little caged visitation area.
Oh, wow.
And we won't be there for 24 hours. And there are a lot of coyotes in that wooded area behind. So what we'd like to do is include that as an abandonment issue. And the other change,
You have to make an appointment to Bay County if you're gonna surrender an animal. You have to make it.
yep. The other change would be under number 4. (1082) under female and heat, number D is this paragraph is just repeated in the very next paragraph.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So I think we should just omit this right here and leave it under limitation of number of dogs and cats. Those are the only two major issues that I see.
Okay. And I guess by the first meeting, because that'll take us to our last two sections, the sections 5 and 6, I guess could we just have the full recommended updates for that, then for the first meeting in August, and then we can, at that point, move
Bring
forward
back
with
the
it.
forward.
Yes.
Get everything.
So if we could do that. Did have someone to contact me about roosters.
Rooster.
Yeah, they wanted to know if the city would consider roosters that were less than 5 pounds, like bantam roosters.
Depends on whether they
noise.
announce themselves at 3:30 a.m., I guess.
Yes,
You
I
know,
think that was the reason why they,
everybody loves the sound of a rooster until it's at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. Or it's right next door.
this is true.
What about the mini? You got the Vietnamese potbelly pig, but you don't say nothing about the little mini horse. Yeah, 'cause they're around here.
Something we can certainly address as part of this
They
this
should be,
review.
they should be categorized, I think, with the little pigs. The piggies.
So yeah, so I guess if we could look at what does a rooster less than 5 pounds.
I'll put together something and get it to you by Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
So it was the noise on the roosters.
Yes, it was the noise.
They break the noise ordinance.
Yes.
Don't the hens need roosters? Like people have the chickens. People have
Right.
chicken
For
houses.
the
here.
eggs, I don't think they're
For the
supposed to
eggs.
be breeding them.
Go move to the county.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an advert for the eggs, but not the
Yeah.
breeding.
You don't want no eggs, then, do you? Gotta get them out of the county. What color county?
People in Lynn Haven really have little horses.
We have a lot of stuff we don't know about.
That Project Hope, it's not Lynn Haven, it's up the road, it's up by the rainbow, but they bring them down and they are pets, trust
Maybe a sound test in the commission meeting.
me.
We'll try.
They can visit, they just can't live here.
That's right, they visited. They're little therapeutic animals. So sweet.
Any other matters for discussion or question?
I have a few things for Article 3 and 4, just some administrative stuff. So on the very first section, 1066, so it's page 59, it says, shall make a reasonable effort to locate and identify himself to the owner of the animal. I would suggest just update that to more inclusive language, because technically speaking, this is saying the only person that can get in trouble is a male. So we might want to say theirselves or themselves, just for legal matters.
Under,
On page, section 1066,
number 4,
on page 59 in your packet,
yeah, I'm there.
at the very top. Section
person.
1066.
Third sentence.
Oh, identify himself.
We can go through the whole thing and make sure,
Yeah.
if we want to do
Gender.
that, and make sure there's.
Gender.
It's him or her. It's fine. There's no legal significance. It's fine.
Yeah, but it's gonna might save some back and forth
Mhm.
with some people. And then on page 60, that would be section,
You know when you kill a cat, whether it's a feral cat or a blown. Driving down the road, you flatten a cat.
Does it
look
have
at
a name tag?
yeah, name tag.
They run right out.
I have a suggestion for section 1060 on page 60, 1068 rather, when it's talking about the adequate shelter. Sorry, when it's talking about the current and active vet care and treatment to prevent suffering. There's a statement underneath it that talks about what that is, but maybe put a little section that says if applicable, because the way this reads says like you have to have active veterinary care for every single animal. Well, there's certain animals that you don't take to the vet, but two, that means I currently have to show records that I'm currently taking my animal to the vet. Well, if there's nothing wrong with my animal, why would I take it to the vet? That's requiring someone to spend money on a vet.
You got the shot.
Not every animal requires a shot, though. You don't give your goldfish a shot. It's still an animal. So I'm just saying, just to cover our bases, all you gotta do is just put something like if applicable, which would cover most things. And then section B in the same thing, it's talking about containing animals in crates. It says that it should not be more than 2 hours. Well, I don't know if 2 hours is long enough, because for some people, they might put their animal in, they may have a new animal that they put in there, like when they go to church or something. And some people it takes them longer than 2 hours just to put their animal in a crate, drive to church, come back, So maybe extend that a little bit longer than 2 hours, maybe 4 hours. Because like for me, for a while, I was driving out to Youngstown to go to church. So there's no way I'd drive to church, go to church, come back, and then,
Yeah, some dogs are crated even longer than
Mhm.
at home.
right.
So what are we asking for again on that one?
Just where it says, let's see, it's about halfway down on section 1068 on letter B, about halfway down. It talks about if the holding period does not include overnight or extended periods of more than 2 hours. I think the extended period we might want to look more than just 2 hours. It's kind of short.
Now, is this talking about for training and hunting?
This is just talking about keeping an animal in an enclosure.
Right, I see that, but it's saying crates used for temporary holding of animals in conjunction with or training for dog shows, performance events, or hunting are permitted if the holding does not include overnight or extended periods of 2 hours while not in transport. So I don't think this is talking about like me leaving my dog at home. I think this is referring to like what it says, training for dog shows, hunting, performance events, and not necessarily, that's like me taking my horse to to a performance or to a rodeo, that I won't necessarily keep that horse in confinement for more than 2 hours, or does not include overnight, while it's not in transport. So I'm thinking that's what that's referring to if I'm reading that.
I'm shaking his head, yes.
Okay.
I think that was the intent.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And it may be that we can clean that up a little bit just to bring some more clarity to it.
All right, and then on page 61, that would be section 1083, letter A, so the top one. It's talking about dogs trained to aid disabled or handicapped persons, and governmental police dogs are deemed to be under direct control while being used for the purposes of which they are trained. I think we should maybe add that for the dogs that are trained, need to be able to provide their paperwork that they've been trained. Because there have been many instances where someone will just say, "Hey, this is my aid dog," and then it's just their pet from the house, and they're using that as because they know it's a loophole to bring their pet wherever they go. I mean, if I'm perfectly fine with someone having an animal for aid, but they got to be able to prove it.
Where's that? I'm
But
sorry.
you have to be careful with a person with disabilities, don't you, Kevin?
Yeah, there's certain, well, you can't ask what their disability is and stuff like that, but you
You
You-
can, they
you can
just,
at
they
least-
don't have to show their disability.
right,
They can
but
just
you
show
can at
that
least
their
show that
dog's
the
been
dog is,
registered.
the dog's qualified.
Well, you can get that online.
Yeah, people can print those on, but
Yeah.
they have to jump through that hoop. But yeah, you're right. People get their little emotional support animal certificate on the internet.
With respect to that, I think if we're going to try and dial that one in, Commissioner, what you're speaking of, we probably need to be more clear as far as allowing animals in the building.
You go to the microphone so they can
I'm sorry.
hear you on YouTube,
Um,
Facebook. Thank you.
I know when I worked over at Panama City, there was a woman who came in and she was obviously looking for trouble because she was videotaping, brought in a dog. And the building custodian said, you can't have an animal in here, and it was her emotional support. And we really didn't have anything in place at the time. I think that's probably what we need to focus on as well, is maybe for those folks bringing in an animal into a building, one of our buildings.
Yeah.
It says it here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, at the top.
I think there's been some
Yeah.
that got out of control, and I think ADA that's kind of gotten dialed in with the difference between emotional support and
That's right.
true service.
Right,
True
right.
service animal, it's got to have safe service animal. There's ADA regulations on that that kept going into emotional support, and I think you weren't really able to do much about that. I think you are now. So you might want to-
Yes,
yeah.
yes, you're correct.
Well, my concern too is like I know, like I'm personally affected because my wife's highly allergic to animals. So like just someone bringing in an animal without going through the proper certification of it all, that can create an issue. So like, I just think this is the opportunity to address it, to make sure that there's nothing wrong with you bringing in your aid animal. We just got to prove that it legitimately is one. You know, like it's no different than like I know you're physically able to drive, but you still need to go get your license to show that you're allowed to. You know.
Well, I know at one time you could go online to register your dog for emotional support, and it says, do you have a letter from your doctor or documentation from your doctor? And all you had to do was click yes. So if they got it and they don't have that letter, then they're not being truthful to begin with.
Right.
But they'd still have the documentation from the computer saying that it is a sport dog. I don't know what.
And I would
solution
imagine
there
most
is.
people that have support animals are aware of the procedures to get the paperwork. And if not, I mean, I'm happy to help show them.
What is our current, I guess, policy, and not that it has to be written, but our current understanding or policy on animals in public buildings? Or in our the city's public buildings?
It says, no animal. So all of them cannot anywhere. And we've had many times before at events, if they don't have a leash, we have to put them on a leash. But it says here that we are authorized to restrict or prohibit dogs in any city, public buildings, parks, recreation facilities, or beaches.
Right.
So
So I do know we can do that, but I'm
do you
asking
want to make it
what,
stronger?
no.
You can bring your dog to Ford Park, right?
Well, not referring to the parks. I'm saying
Building.
in regards to, like, I know we're authorized to do, but what is our current,
Yeah, I would think if it's a true service animal,
Right.
for the blind or whatever,
got
you gotta
it?
let that in.
So I didn't know
But
if there
now,
was
it's
a,
just a emotional support.
so I don't know if
Can
that
you
was,
ask them?
Yeah, well, like I said, I know like for service animals, they actually have to be like
they have,
wearing something that says they're a service animal. And
they have the
so you
little
can-
vest on that says service.
Yeah, and you can
service.
probably
Did
ask.
that also for emotional.
Well, yeah, like I said, I know you can't ask them anything that would lead you to figure out what their disability is, but you could, I think you can figure out, in addition to whatever they're wearing, whatever's on their leash, that they're actually a service animal, which is different than emotional support animal. That's a much wider category.
So do we have any direction for staff on this one? I know we've talked around it a little bit. Any conclusion?
I mean, I guess for me, my suggestion would be just update the statement about to say with where is it? What did I say? Okay, where it says dogs trained to aid disabled or handicapped persons with proper paperwork. Just add with proper paperwork and governmental police dogs, because if they have their proper paperwork, then they're good to go.
Certain questions you can ask someone who may prove them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But
You just can't
Mayor,
ask anything that
that's
would lead
under
you to
direct
figure out what the
control.
disability
I'm more
is.
interested in when it says animals prohibited in parks and recreation facilities. This is where it
So do
says,
you want to make that stronger?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
where
so-
I'm going.
So like the bottom line there on 1081, because it does say the city manager is authorized, but you're saying make it stronger?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where it's
Okay.
just not prohibited.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because, and that's what I was asking is that right now there is no policy other than just verbally saying, hey, there's no
Correct.
across the board policy for our city buildings.
Yeah, that would be smart. I agree.
That way we can, so it won't be
You can't ask anything that
on her, and if a
Make them
new
do
employee
what the
doesn't know that
disability is.
regulation,
Mhm.
that's something to discuss in
If
staff.
they're
Right.
So,
registered service animal.
so yeah. So Kevin, how would we make that more of a stronger statement in regards to not allowing animals into our city buildings?
Sits at the bottom, at the top.
Sign.
at the top.
Yeah, that last sentence in 1081.
Well, I mean, instead of just having the city manager being authorized to come up with rules,
Like, how would we?
well, we could just come up with the rules, and then what do you want, like, direction on what those rules should be?
Well, basically, it would just be no animals allowed in city buildings.
Yeah, but you
unless-
can't do that for ADA purposes, though,
But unless.
for a true
like,
service animal.
Right.
And then I guess the
Commissioner-
question is going to become, do we want to look at, sticking with that distinction between a service animal and an
That-
emotional support animal?
Right.
Which
I think that's going.
that's
That's
what
what he's.
he's
And
saying.
that's what I would suggest.
Okay.
So is everybody okay updating it to that language?
So they have to have proper documentation if they want to enter.
But we're distinguishing between the service animal
And the
and
emotional.
an emotional support animal.
Well, if they had the proper documentation, wouldn't it tell you whether or not it was a disability or a, can you even ask that? To
can't.
see
Like I said, you-
documentation?
I think you can ask for documentation. You can't ask questions that would lead the person to divulge what their disability is.
What if
You know,
the,
so like Pat was saying, like you can't say, oh, well, what service does that dog provide? You can't ask that. But you could say, you know, is that dog properly registered as a service animal? I don't care what the disability is, but you know, I think you can ask that it's properly registered or certified or whatever the question is. But
Because theoretically, you're asking about the dog, not the
right.
person.
Kevin, is there a nationally recognized certification for an emotional support animal
I was
versus?
going to ask
I don't
about
think so.
Right.
That's where it kind of got. Was
Other-
like that was sort of the Wild
Amazon?
West. Everybody-
that's the internet when.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I mean, I think if and I'll look because you know a few years ago we couldn't do that, and I think that's changed. So I'll get the updated status of the law, and where we want to go with that is you know obviously ADA stuff we can't do anything about, but if we can on a strict emotional support, we'll do that.
anything else on 3 and 4? Articles 3 and 4. All right. Anything else that needs to be brought to the attention of the commission or city staff before we go?
Oh, just, I got questions about what's going on 12th Street. Wait, 389 at 77, like right across from utilities, where you come out, like where the convenience store is, across from Circle. Yeah, as you're going down, if you turn there and you go down 12th, there's silt fence along the road, starting at Pennsylvania.
Oh, it's all the way up.
It's all the way,
yeah.
and people are asking questions. So everybody needs to know that that's they're widening the shoulders on both sides of East Avenue 389
Yeah.
all the way down. So they're gonna put. I talked to Bobby yesterday. I guess they're putting like a 6-foot shoulder on each side of the road for bicycles and pedestrians.
Yes, it's a bicycle thing. I've gotten several of those
Yeah.
phone calls. You're
So
exactly.
people will be asking you about it as they getting more inquisitive about that.
Anything
They're only on
else?
one side right now, but they're gonna be on the other.
I do have one more thing I just thought about. I've had an abundance of people ask me about, you know, we did the traffic study in Moat Highlands. So there have been people asking about like what's the policy on speed bumps and all that stuff. So it might be wise to just re-review that policy.
So I did follow with city manager about
Okay.
that. So I did meet with the residents of Moat Highlands on Monday. We had a town hall, had about 15 residents to come.
Okay.
And we talked about the statistics that were in Moat Highlands. So like on Dundee, which is the main road entering there, the highest speed was 53 miles an hour. And then on 24th Street, the highest speed was 68 miles an hour.
God.
And of course, we discussed the accuracy of those numbers, and I even proposed, even if it's 10 miles off, which there's a 5-mile variable for both, you're still 43 miles an hour, and that's a 25 mile per hour road. There's approximately about 7,800 cars that went on that main road, Dundee. Again, high speed being 53. 85% of the traffic was actually basically 35 miles or over. So 85% of the traffic on that road was more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. So they did understand that there is a speeding issue. Although we talked about other issues, could it be UPS, could it be DoorDash? But we don't have that many UPS and DoorDash. And even if a UPS guy is going 53 miles an hour, if he hits someone, they're going to die.
Right.
You know? And so you do want to prevent that if that is the case.
Yeah.
And so we did talk about the actual policy itself, which I did follow up with city manager and asked that we would update it to insert what the speed bumps are versus the speed humps, because that was sort of the dilemma was the the speed humps versus the speed bumps. Of course, that policy was made in 2017, and the way the policy reads is that the city doesn't have to go out to do the petition. And actually, the petitions aren't done by the city; they're done by the resident that actually make that
Okay,
express the
that was
concern.
my question about the
Yeah.
petition.
So when you look back at the policy, it's not on us to go around and ask the neighbors, "Do you want a speed hump?" It goes back to the person that made the.
So if a citizen requests a speed
Yeah,
bump. Gotcha.
they go get a petition, but even if they do, it's,
That's
you got stuff to
exactly
vote on. I mean,
No,
it's
you-
not,
You're exactly right.
doesn't
And
give you
it-
the right to have.
So the speed humps is what and that's the part that we got clarity on, is that the speed humps, which are permanent, is what the commission has to vote on and
That's
what has to
correct.
have the petition signed by the residents, not the speed bumps.
Those are
Because,
temporary?
Those are temporary.
Okay,
They're
got
removed.
it. Okay.
so yeah, so we don't have to necessarily vote on that, but I did follow up with her and ask her if she would just update if they would, the traffic committee would look at updating the policy to include the speed bumps.
Yeah.
But also realizing that in updating it, that you don't have to go out and get the petition. If the traffic shows that you need speed bumps, then put those in. And with the stats that were there, something is needed to help,
Yeah.
defray the speeding. That's in the area. So we are going to, they're going to encourage one another to slow down, and not speed as much. And we're going to follow back up in 3 months. They did provide several suggestions, which I forwarded to the city manager, in regarding to deterring speeding. So they all agree that speeding needs to be deterred. They just had different ideas of how that should be done.
Okay.
Police officer out there.
So, and I did tell them, I said, if we put a police officer back out there, you'll probably get tickets, right? So it's not just going to be someone just sitting there, just encouraging us to slow down. That if you're driving 50 miles an hour, you're going to get a ticket. So that, I suggested that probably not be the first alternative,
Right.
of putting an officer out there. But what they would like for us to consider is within the next 3 months or so, reviewing the speeding, in the area, seeing if the speed bumps are still needed. And so that's what they've asked us to consider, as a city. So I'm going to meet back with them again in 3 months, and we're going to follow back up. And they had some other ideas on traffic, for example, but we need to discuss it more with the residents, because again, the issue that we've come to is you've had one group of residents to come and express their concerns, because I stay away from the word complaints, express their concerns. And now that those concerns have been addressed by us, now you have another group of residents that are in disagreement with how those concerns were expressed or addressed. And so the major issue comes down to there's no HOA in Woodward Highlands. And so you don't have like a voice that speaks for the entire subdivision as much as a group that might express their particular concerns. So we did talk a little bit about, how they could get more cohesion in regards to addressing city matters, because that was the issue with the sign being replaced, was there was no HOA, so there's no entity that's responsible for that. So then they had to go back to the actual original owners of the subdivision and such to get them to file on their insurance as well. So there's some internal things that I encourage them to, that, as a neighborhood, that we need to look at and consider, in regards to, again, just having some cohesion in just that one voice, so you don't have us talking with a group of residents on Andrews or Dundee, and what happens is Dundee, really, from what I'm seeing, is not, the complaints are not coming from the disagreement is not coming from the residents on Dundee. It's actually coming from all those that are off the veins of Dundee, because Dundee is your major road coming into it. So when I've talked to citizens on Dundee who see the speeding, they're like, hey, we're fine with the speed bumps, or the speed bumps. Even those that live right beside the speed bumps, they say, we hear it, but we're totally fine with it. But those that live off Inverness or Thurso, those other veins, those were the ones that gave the most feedback, because the speeding isn't going in their area. Because we did test Inverness and Andrews and Pentland, but there was no speeding in those areas. So it was really Dundee and 24th that had the issues. So that's where I also saw some of the major concerns were expressed from those that live in the veins coming off of Dundee, and not necessarily just on Dundee itself.
Right.
And just so we can clarify terms of speed, humps. Those are things that have to be constructed. I mean, we have to get a contractor out
Right.
there, put it in, it has to be striped, and you actually have to prove that because that's construction per se.
Yeah, that would come.
And
They're
then,
about
yes, you're exactly
4,500.
right.
So if you do them in house, it's going to be $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah, they're not cheap. But then also the second one is stop signs. Those have to come to you because stop signs really, according to the guideline that we use, should not be used to control traffic or calm
Well,
traffic.
for speeding.
Yes,
it's
yeah,
for
or
traffic, but yeah,
speeding.
it's-
Yeah, those should not be used. So when it comes to a point where there may be a recommendation for the stop sign, we're going to bring it to you. The stop signs are not an option in
Yeah, like
mowing.
putting like a three-way stop. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
It's not-
those are not an option because none of the streets don't line up, first of all.
Yeah.
Basically, Bobby and several of us just said we just never seen that level of speeding in a neighborhood. And just remember, the city is trying to keep streets safe, streets that are turned over to us. It is our job to keep the residents safe and streets, and the people in them.
So that was the conclusion. Everyone left agreeing that speed needs to be deterred. Just differences of opinion on how the city should deter that speed, but everyone left, from what I can recall, in agreement that we do need to deter speed in Moat Islands.
Sweet.
It's interesting, people bring up problems, but they don't want to be inconvenienced when we try to solve the problem.
That is true.
August 8th is the comprehension planning workshop. We rescheduled August 8th. Okay, if you put that on your calendar.
All right, Thursday night.
Tuesday.
I was gonna be in Tallahassee that
Thursday,
day.
Thursday.
Got a doctor appointment over there.
Oh, Thursday, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Thursday night.
Yeah.
And that's going to be at 5.
5.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Okay.
And again, that's just for us to get direction on
That's-
how to start working on the comprehensive plan. So that's not for us to necessarily begin working on the comprehensive plan, but for us to get understanding on how we should focus moving forward.
So we have no homework for that night?
You may have some. We'll get with you.
Okay.
Yeah, not too much.
Read the comp plan.
Yeah. I think, Amanda, you've given everyone a copy of the comp plan. Everyone has a copy of the comp plan.
It's online. It's on the city.
Yeah, but
website.
in terms of them having a copy in front
You
of
want me
them.
to print one out? for you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes,
Do that.
because I think it's been over a year since the last
You're
time
exactly
we
right.
received it. So awesome.
You
Right.
want us to bring recommendations?
No.
Just listen?
Yeah. I'll say this workshop is just for us to get direction on
Okay.
how to address the comp plan. And then we're going to have and then we're going to go like we're doing with the articles.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have times where we come back and actually go through the comp plan.
Awesome.
Will you be back,
address it.
Pat?
I already moved that appointment. I have two doctors. I had a conflict because I had originally booked a doctor's appointment in Tallahassee, but I had a cardiologist appointment, so I had a conflict, so I moved it. So I knew what was going on before either.
There you go.
I'm good. I just got daytime doing shit.
All right. Meeting adjourned.